Good morning. Welcome to this Implementation Day, a webinar focused on the novelties in the recently published work program from the last 2 years of Horizon Europe, 2026 and 2027. My name is Isabel Vergara. I am Deputy Head of Unit of the unit dealing with the business processes in the European Commission in the Directorate General for Research and Innovation. Today's event is focused on as I mentioned, on the novelties of the work program 26-27 for these 2 years. I would like to clarify one point because this work program includes a high number of simplification of novelties. Sorry. And we are not going to present today all of them, so we are going to focus only on those linked to the implementation, so those that are horizontal and applicable to all the clusters and all parts of the work program. For other novelties in the work program, we are also organizing different info days for the different clusters in Horizon Europe and in the portal. And later on here you will see a slide with a list of all the events that have been already planned so far. So normally every cluster organize at least one info day in which they will present all changes and novelties in the work program. Today, in this implementation day, we have 3 main points to present. The first one is focused on the application process. We have some novelties here in the application process linked to the proposal template. We have changed the proposal template. We have reduced the maximum number of pages that can be included. And we are also proposing some changes in the evaluation process of the 2 stages call. So we will give you more details later on. Then we have a second point linked to the novelties of the Choose Europe for Science in the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. We will have 2 colleagues working in this part of the program presenting all the novelties that we include in the work program. And finally, we have a short point in which we are going to give you information about the 2-factor authentication that will become mandatory to access the portal very soon. So in terms of organization, we will have questions and answer sections at the end of each presentation. These questions, so you can ask these questions or post your questions via Slido. And for this, we will show you later on the code to access Slido, and also you have it here, the QR code to access this section of Slido. So I believe the Slido session is open. You can already start posting questions. But as usual, before you do or you want to post a new question, please check whether a similar question has already been posted. And then instead of entering a new question, just vote because we will answer the questions later on in order of the most voted. So I am also going to give you some novelties in the work program 26-27, for which we are not focusing very much on this session, but it will be interesting for you to know, so to know other novelties that are happening in the work program 26-27. So first one is that the work program is designed to be more strategic, more focused, simpler and accessible. So we have reduced the fragmentation in the available budget in the topics that we open in this work program. It includes also a new part called horizontal activities, which groups horizontal goals and aims to create critical mass and avoid duplication of budget. So in these goals included here in the horizontal activities, maybe several clusters are contributing to this goal. It allocates 50 million to the Choose Europe for Science initiative to improve long-term fellowships and postdoctoral career stability, and this will be one of the points that we will present today. It encourages international cooperation, but also imposes restrictions on participation in certain topics, including those related to the 5G, 6G, and communication network equipment. This we will give you some more information later on. It has been simplified in terms of the length of the work program, so it's sorted. We have a work program with 33% reduction in length. We have fewer and more concise topics, and we have to reduce to the minimum those topics in which we plan to fund only one project. We have also increased the number of topics that includes lump sums. We have at least more or less 50% of the Horizon Europe goal budget will be allocated to topics using lump sums. And then, and this will be our first point to present later on, it includes simplified proposal forms, implying a reduction of the standard page limits by 5 pages. So with this, I think I finished my introduction. Here you have the list of info days that have been already planned for the different clusters in the work program 26-27. Some other info days may come in the coming weeks and months, so all these info days are published in the Funding and Tenders portal under the event menu. So with this, I finish my introduction and I hand over to the first speaker on the point for the novelties on the application process. In this part of the webinar, we will include 2 presentations by my 2 colleagues in my unit, Beatrice Plasota and Miguel Ruiz Osés. So I hand over to you, Beatrice, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Isabel. So it will be my pleasure to guide you through the novelties in the application process. As mentioned, this will cover some horizontal changes that will apply to all or nearly all call in the work program without going specifically into any changes that may be related to one call or one cluster. For these, you go to the info days that have been already listed in the page before. What are we going to look at then? First of all, we will have a look at the update of the evaluation criteria and application forms, what has changed, what impact does it has on the templates. We will also look at the reduction of the overall months have been quite active for our international cooperation units, and there are more partners, countries that are now eligible for funding under Horizon Europe. So let's begin. The first part is the update of the evaluation criteria and application form. What does change? The changes are mainly linked to criterion 2, impact, mainly for research and innovation action, coordination and support action, and co-fund type of actions. What we changed there is to remove the mention of the likely scale and significance of the contribution from the project. This is no longer part of the impact evaluation because we felt that it was generating more confusion and it was not really adding a lot of value to the proposal you write, and it was not having a significant impact on the evaluation of the proposal. So now this is no longer part of it. You do not longer have to provide information of it. The updated criterion for impact now reads credibility. It takes into account credibility of the pathways to achieve the expected outcomes and impact specified in the work program, and then suitability and quality of the measures to maximize expected outcome and impacts as set out in the dissemination and exploitation plan, including communication activities. Excellence and implementation criteria are unchanged, so they will look at exactly the same aspects as before. These changes in the criterion are also reflected in changes in the application form, particularly the application form part B, the impact section. This affects all the templates where it is applicable, and excluding the European Research Center templates, European Innovation Center templates, and Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, as they do have their own separate criteria and they do have their own dedicated templates. What changes? In section 2.1, you do not longer have to explain the general scientific, economic, and societal expected impacts. This is not linked directly to the change in the criterion, but this is due to the changes more general in how the work program is written, as these general impacts are taken into account explicitly in the topic expected impact. So when addressing the topic expected impact, you should normally already address them, so there is no need to duplicate the information or try to invent something here. The second change in the application form part B concerning impact is related explicitly to the change in the criteria. So under the section, again, 2.1, project pathways towards impact, in the subsection, we have removed part B, which was asking for details and implication of the scale and significance of the project contribution, because this is no longer part of the evaluation criteria and this is no longer taken into any account for your evaluation. We now only ask you to provide quantified estimates when possible and relevant, because it might be that for your projects that's relevant, or this is something you want to share with us, because it might be for your specific case that this has an impact on the evaluation, but it is not anymore required to all of you. You can see on the right, to give you a bit of a visual indication, the track changes of the form, so you can see what used to be and a lot of the section which has been struck out. We also made some changes in the application form part B, the implementation, even though the criteria has not changed. So the criteria for implementation is exactly the same as before, but we realized that some of the table we include there for budgetary reasons, for the costs and the justification, are relevant for the projects, are relevant for the grant agreement, but are not as relevant for the evaluation per se, and they did not have an impact on whether you were evaluated successfully or not in your proposal. And we also felt that they were very time consuming and energy consuming for you as applicants to compile. So now they are no longer part of the application forms. It's not all the table, it's just the table on other cost categories and in-kind contributions, so 3.1A, I, and J, for those who are very technical and experts on our templates, have been removed, are no longer part of the application form. They were before asking justifications on these cost categories, if you have included them in your budget, why, what they were corresponding to. And we have also amended table 3.1H, which is the table on purchase costs. Before or till 2025, it used to list all the costs exceeding the 15% of your personal cost for any participant, so where you travel, equipment, other goods, works, services, or any other costs. Now we focus exclusively on equipment, so you will still be asked to provide justification for any major equipment cost, because that is relevant to the quality of your proposal and also possibly impacting on the excellence of your proposal in general, but we do not need to know for the application what are your costs on travel and subsistence. This does not mean that they are not important. If you have an actual cost call, if you're applying for an actual cost call, and if you are successful and you're awarded a grant, this table will be required of you during the grant agreement preparation as part of the description of action. So you will have to provide them, but we ask this only for the successful participant, and you will then have time to prepare them. If you are applying for a lump sum call, where you have to provide a detailed budget table according to the lump sum standards, you might have or you might want to provide indication of these justifications. And that has to be done in the comments section of the lump sum table itself. This is because for lump sum grants, we ask you a detailed budget table in advance, which is used as a base to decide to agree on lump sums to be paid to you during the project lifetime without further detailed check on your expenditures, and this information is relevant there, so it should be taken into account. These changes also have an impact on the page limits for the templates, because there was quite a significant reduction in the request for impact, but also for the implementation, as these tables were quite space consuming in terms of templates real estate. This means that following the simplification, the page limits for application part Bs are reduced by 5 pages. The new standard page limits are then 40 pages for actual cost, research and innovation action, and innovation action, 45 pages for lump sum, research and innovation action, and innovation actions, as you might need to explain more about the implementation of your project to justify the overall cost that you are proposing. 25 pages for actual cost, coordination and support actions, 28 pages for lump sum coordination and support actions, 65 pages for Horizon co-funds. So Horizon co-fund, this does not refer to the Marie Sklodowska-Curie co-fund, which are another type of action. 40 pages for procurement actions. Specific calls might use different page limits. If that is the case, it will be specifically mentioned in the work program and call documents, and it will be specifically marked in the application form Part B template that you find in the system. Also, as a general reminder, always use the templates that you find in the submission system. You might have templates lying around because you have applied to our call before. Do not use them because they might not be the most correct one. We also have templates which are available in the portal as reference documents. You can have a look at them to see what you can expect, but there might be difference between what you see in the reference documents and the actual templates in the submission systems, because specific calls might have specific requirements, and we do not publish any all and every custom template, so always and only use the forms you find in the submission system. Also important to note, the changes discussed so far on the update on the criterion 2 and the update on the templates only apply to calls for work program 2026-2027. Calls stemming from previous work program 2025, which are launched or ongoing in 2026, will still use the 2025 templates and page limits. For example, this is the case for two-stage calls that were launched in 2000, for which the first phase was launched in 2025, but the second phase is launched in 2026. The rules for 2025 still apply. You will already find the correct templates in the submission system, so there is no risk of mistakes there. But if you see in those templates that, oh, these changes are not implemented, is not a mistake, is because they are correctly using the old template. So this is what concerns for the updates and the criterion and the application form. If you have questions, please drop them in Slido. We will address them at the end of this presentation. And I now pass the floor to my colleague Miguel for updates and two-stage calls.
Thank you, Beatrice. So another novelty in the new work program is regarding the time to grant, the reduction on the time to grant in two-stage calls. As you may remember, two-stage calls are calls where there is a first phase where you submit a summary of your proposal, a short version of your proposal, and only the successful proposals are invited to the second stage, where then you have to submit a full proposal. The big difference with the previous work program is that now the time to grant is going to be reduced when applicable, and to achieve this, the expected time will be reduced from 17 months to 14 months, and to achieve this, I will explain step by step where this time can be reduced. In the first step, in the bottom and in the left of this slide, you can see that the the call opening of the can be reduced from 3 months to 2 months. Of course, this will be only, this is applicable. Otherwise, if the call opening is at the same time of the publication of the work program, we will still maintain the 3 months time. Another possibility to reduce this time is to do a faster evaluation in the first stage process. Again, when this is applicable, and the idea is to reduce the original 3 months in the previous work program to less than 3 months, ideally a minimum of 2 months. Then we can also reduce the interval between stages, again, when this is applicable, moving from 3 months in the previous work program to the 2 months minimum. And then we hope that we can also have, in some calls, a faster evaluation of the second stage by streamlining internal processes of this evaluation process. And then if we take all these measurements together, we hope we can have a reduction, overall time reduction of 3 months, achieving 14 months. We hope we think this is an improvement in the process. The quality of the evaluation will be maintained, and this will, of course, be applicable only to specific calls. And you can find this information already in the Funding and Tenders portal. Back to you, Patricia. Thank you.
Thank you. The next steps will be discussing a bit about economic security. This is not related to all calls, but is important to know because it might have some implication depending on where you're applying to. So what is the background? We are in a economical and a geopolitical conjuncture where we have to pay attention to what we do and who we collaborate with. Horizon Europe, as you know, is open to the world, and we want to have as many collaboration as possible, but taking into account our own economic security and making sure that things are balanced. So considering that there are persistent imbalances on innovation-related framework conditions and linked effects, there was a decision to actually take advantage of Articles 22.6 and 22.5 to restrict access to some of our calls for specific legal entities, mainly legal entities established in China, as we see specific imbalances in our relationship with them in terms of economy and research and innovation frameworks. We already had some restrictions on innovation actions that remain unchanged, but we have now included further restrictions on research and innovation actions, where legal entities established in China are only eligible for a very limited subset of destination and clusters 2, 5, 6 mission widening and the new European Bauhaus facilities, or were explicitly mentioned in the call documents. In other calls, in other clusters, entities established in China are not eligible, even for research and innovation actions. Participation of entities controlled by China, so that might be established elsewhere in the world, including in Europe, is also restricted under Article 22.5 for innovation actions in critical technology areas that was referred to before, for example, in 5G, 6G, or connectivity networks. In this case, it has to be specifically mentioned in the call document, so you would see in the call text that there is a reference to these innovation actions, so it's innovation actions only, being specifically addressed to critical technology areas, which have been, it's a list of technology areas which have been defined. And there is a specific mention of a restriction under Article 22.5, which states that not only entities established in China are not eligible, but also entities who are established in Europe but controlled by Chinese entities. That also means that for those calls which are restricted under Article 22.5, you will be asked to provide some documentation on an ownership and control declaration, where you provide information on the ownership patterns of your applicants in the project, for example, if it is a consortium of all the applicants in the consortium, to prove that none of the applicants involved in the project is controlled by China. You can find further information on these and what it means in the general annexes itself or in the funding and tenders portals. Also, we just mentioned this information here as it is a novelty, but this does not replace nor remove all the other restrictions that we might have in place or any other sanctions that we might have active at this moment or at the time of your application for specific participant or countries. Always please refer to the information on the funding and tender portals for the latest novelties and the latest information on eligibility. And you're always also welcome to contact us in case of doubts if you're unsure if one of your partners or yourself are eligible to apply for a specific call. More on the positive, we also have some positive developments on newly associated countries because, as mentioned, Horizon Europe is open to the world. We want to encourage researchers to collaborate and to create networks all around the globe to solve the challenges that we are facing. And we are happy to announce and glad to announce newly associated countries to Europe, Republic of Korea and Switzerland, which are now fully associated. Republic of Korea is associated to Pillar 2, Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness, and Switzerland, which is associated to the entire program. That means that they are now eligible for funding. Just as a small note, we normally accept, barring restrictions, any legal entity in the entire world to apply for our programs and be part of our programs, but not everyone is eligible to receive money. Being associated means that entities from those countries can also receive funding. Please note that for Republic of Korea and Switzerland, the association is valid as from the budget 2025. That means that they can now apply for any of the calls in a 26-27 work program and request funding. And they can also be introduced via amendments to already ongoing projects. But even if they are introduced via amendments to existing projects, if they implement budget from year previous from 2025, so for example, projects implementing 2024 budget, they will not be able to receive funding there because their eligibility for funding starts from budget year 2025. There are also two other to-be associated countries which are currently under a transitional agreement as some of the process for association has been kickstarted positively but has not been fully concluded with all the signature needed. Those are Egypt, which is going to be associated to the entire program from budget 2025, and Japan, which will be associated only to Pillar 2, Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness, including institutionalized European partnership, as from budget 2026. As the association process is not fully concluded for those two countries, they are under a transitional agreement. That means that you can include them in your proposal. You can include entities from Egypt and Japan in your proposals for the corresponding budget years. And ask for funding for them. However, release of funding for those entities will be conditional on the association to be completely formalized by the signature of the grant agreement. In case this association is not formalized by the signature of the grant agreement, it will not be possible to fund entities in these countries. So this concludes our presentation on these novelties. We are now open for your questions and we will try our best to reply and clarify any doubts that you might have.
Yes, thank you very much, Beatrice and Miguel. And we have now plenty of time for questions, so we will directly start with the first one. What about the impact summary table? Is it still required? It seems to have been marked as optional now. Beatrice. Yeah.
So it is not strictly required, it is indeed optional. So we find it a useful tool because it gives a nice overview of what are the impacts, and we do encourage you to use it if you find it relevant. But if you believe that it is not relevant for you because you have already expressed everything very clearly, you are very welcome to not include it if you so wish.
Yes, thank you. Let's go to the second one. In case of lump sums, are the cost justifications required or optional to include in the detailed budget table? Will it affect the evaluation?
Okay, in case of lump sums, there are two aspects to be taken into account. One is whether the actual proposal is excellent as a positive input and implementation. The other one is how much you will be paid. As in lump sums, you do not get paid on the actual cost incurred, but on the amounts that has been defined at proposal stage. So the main impact on the cost justification is whether the cost that you're proposing will be accepted as is, or they will be asked to be revised during grant agreement preparation. The justification is still mostly required. So if you have exceeding costs, or if you have particular need for example in-kind contribution, we do ask you to provide a justification in the comments, insofar it is reasonable and it is not clearly explained anywhere else.
Yes, thank you. So the next one, so the gender balance is a tiebreaker, so meaning that we use it as a criteria to run the proposal with the same score. Will the gender of the whole team be taken into consideration, or only the gender of the team leaders will be considered? Beatrice? Yes.
So the information on the gender balance, when it's used as a tiebreaker, it comes from the researchers table, which is included in Part A of the application forms. There, what we consider is the leads researcher. So I guess that's what you refer with the term team leaders. How you define who is a lead researchers, that's to an extent up to you. So it might or might not overlap with any formal hierarchical title you have in your own organization. Is who is the main responsible person for your organization in this specific project?
Yes, maybe I can add that there is an FAQ on how we define a team leader in the group of researchers. So you can check an FAQ in the portal. And I also would like to mention that this was already the case. So this was a change that we introduced in the work program 2025. So this is the reason we didn't include it as a novelty here for the work program 26-27, because that was already the case last year. So I go to the next question. When I have a large consortium, I need more space in the application form to list all beneficiaries. Why is the list counted in the number of pages?
So as the application form Part B is provided as a PDF file, we have to count it as well, is not put it separately. However, it is one page that is to be dedicated to the list of all beneficiaries. That means that even if you have 3 beneficiaries, you normally would and should start on the next section on page 2 always. So that way is not discriminating. It's not that if you have very few beneficiaries, you can then have almost an extra page is an advantage. And I believe it is very rare to have a list of beneficiaries that exceed 1 page. And if that is the case, is normally because the call for proposal is asking for large-scale projects, and normally that is applicable to all proposals in the same call. So you will all have the same, let's say, disadvantage of having to invest more time and more space in the form. If also there are these kind of very specific calls, it might be the case that they have specific templates as well, giving you more space exactly for this reason.
Okay, thank you. So we continue with the next question. The track changes of the template is useful. Is it available somewhere?
You will have it in the slides. You can see the image in the slides. We do not provide it in the reference documents, as we believe that might be confusing, but you can always ask for a version, or if you have it, a version of the previous templates, and then you can yourself compare the 2 versions and see what's the difference.
Okay, thank you. Next question, what is considered a major equipment?
So
benefits?
we normally consider them as major equipment where their cost is significant. Again, since this comes from the table 3.1H, what was there before is that all costs which were contributing to costs exceeding 15% of the personal costs are to be where to be justified. Now this is only valid for major equipment. Again, if you're just buying some pipettes or anything like that, that will not be major equipment. But if you are having a large scale instrument for your laboratory, for example, that would count. So is anything that is significant also in a monetary terms, let's say.
Thank you. Next question is, how does the budget table in the online form, part 8, change? I'm not sure if I understand the question, but maybe Beatrice, you can try.
So we do change the tables in part B because we do no longer require the justification, but the information is still to be provided in part A as before. So if you have travel costs or if you have in-kind contribution, other costs, they still have to be included in part A. It's just you do not need to provide the justification except in the case of lump sums. So there are no changes to part A. What you might notice as a change is that we are updating the technology with which we are producing our part A and the web form, so the look and feel might be different, but the actual content is the same.
Yes, maybe I would like to clarify here that I think you have already mentioned, so what we publish in the portal are reference templates, but the actual budget table that you will have to fill in is in the tool. So you have to open the submission tool and then check there the particular budget table that you have to fill in. This is the one that will be applicable to your call. It might be a bit different than the one we publish in the portal. Yeah. So we can go to the next question. Do the restrictions concerning Chinese applicants also concern Chinese citizens working in European entities, which are not controlled by China? Yeah. Beatrice.
No, the restrictions is at the level of entities because the applicants to our program are entities. What we consider as beneficiary is the legal entity to where person work. If you are a Chinese citizen, Chinese national, who are wishing to be part of a European project and you work in a European entity or anyhow an entity which is not controlled by China or established by China, you're very welcome to apply. The restriction does not apply to you except if you are by any case involved in any other kind of sanctions, but that would be a very specific case and you would normally be aware of it. Also, if you are a Chinese person who is working in a European in an entity based in Europe and controlled by China, you might be able to apply depending on the topic because the restriction on control is only for strategic technologies. This does not apply to other call documents. But just to be again repeated and be very clear, our restrictions are aimed at legal entities. Companies, universities, research centers are not aimed at individual people.
Thank you once more. So we go to the next question. Will you be publishing new reviewer guidance so applicants can also have access? I think this refers to the briefing slides for experts, which is the thing that we publish for the evaluators. So maybe Miguel, you can say something.
Yes, regarding the briefing for experts, they were last updated 1st of December. So yes, we publish guidance for applicants, for experts also, and they are regularly updated. They have been already updated in the last month.
Thank you. So we go to the next question. Regarding revised timeline, do you take into account the time needed to form a strong consortia? Reducing time there directly impacts consortium plus proposal quality. Miguel, you.
Yes, as mentioned during my presentation, this simplification or this reduction in the opening call, in the time of opening of the call, is only when applicable. This will be implemented for cases where it is considered that this will be beneficial and not a burden to the applicants. So yes, it's everything is considered when this measure is taken.
Thank you, Miguel. So we continue with the next question. Are we expecting restrictions to US applicants, especially in the cluster health, where US applicants are funded by EU?
So
Yeah.
at the moment, we do not have restriction on United States applications. So legal entity to the United States can be part of proposals and can be included. And as part of cluster health, they might even be funded by the EU. However, it's important to note that we always publish updates on the list. So in case there are any changes, you will see them in the funding and tenders portal, and they will be also linked to the specific calls if they are specific to an individual call or clusters. You might also want to check at the relevant info days for the cluster health to see if there has been any novelties by the time the cluster health info day happens.
Which is one that has already been planned.
Yes,
yeah,
it is
so
already
it's
in
in
the
the list
planning.
that we provided. Yeah. So we continue with the next question. Is the implementation criteria unchanged in evaluation or not? Your slides are contradictory, Beatrice.
So the implementation criteria has not been changed, as we still take into account the same aspects, which are the composition of your consortium, the relevant to different partners, and also whether the different implementation steps are taken into account realistically and reasonably. What has been changed is the information that we ask specifically in the template. But that's because this information, the justification on those costs, were not really taken into account in the evaluation itself. They didn't really have an impact on whether on the decision to fund or not fund proposals. They are important information that are needed either for lump sums to establish how much you should be paid, or for actual costs to actually monitor your expenditure and actually track your expenditure and to assess the budget that you are receiving, but they do not, they are not relevant to the evaluation of the merit of your proposal. So that's why we are removing them, and we are asking them either in the lump sum table if you have a lump sum grant or a lump sum call, or directly at grant agreement preparation phase for actual costs.
Thank you, Beatrice. So we continue with the next question. Does 15% threshold apply not only to equipment cost justification threshold higher than 15% of personal costs, or is it calculated from all other costs?
So
Beatrice.
yeah, the 15% threshold refers to 15% of the personal cost declared from that applicant in the project. Is not calculated from other costs. So it still remains there. It will be the same for equipment costs. It will be the same also for when at GAP you will be asked to provide the additional justifications on travel and so on and so forth. And is on personnel costs, so not on other costs.
Thank you. So we continue with the next question. For lump sum proposals, before entering the budget on the portal, would you advise using the previously provided Excel sheets as a draft? Beatrice?
I'm not completely sure what you mean. I interpret these as if you want to start preparing it, could you use the reference Excel sheet, for example, as an indication and start pre-filling that? If that is helpful for you and makes you save time, you're very welcome. But please make sure to always check and always fill in the actual version in the submission systems, because there might be difference, and do not be surprised if there are differences. So you can use a previously provided Excel file or the ones in the reference document as a guidance if you want to pre-fill it as an Excel, but always pay attention when you transfer the information, because they might not be the same, you might not have exactly the same categories. So always do it with care and at your own risk, let's say.
Yes, maybe to add that this question is linked to a pilot that we have launched this year, in which we are including the detailed budget table in web forms. but this is not applicable to all calls using lump sums. It's only a few of them. So you will know whether you have to enter the cost in the detailed budget table via Excel file or via web forms when you enter the submission tool. So it's a pilot. Once we finish with this pilot, it will be extended to all lump sums calls. But this year we have calls still using the Excel and calls still that will have to use the web forms. We are piloting this. Yeah.
No, but also make sure to always, even if it's using the Excel, to use the Excel in the actual submission system, because the previous one might be different. This is especially if your call or your project should apply country coefficients, like for example Marie-Sklodowska Curie, because those are updated regularly and they are taken into account in the latest version of the Excel table, which is the one you find in the system. If you use an older version, it might still have incorrect or not up-to-date correction coefficients, and the values you actually see might be wrong. So that's why I'm saying, even if you use the Excel, be mindful of what you're doing.
Okay, thank you. So we continue with the next question. Regarding economic security, could you confirm whether at the proposal stage, all partners must declare that they are not established in or controlled by China?
So here it really depends what we are talking about. The additional restrictions on Chinese entities refer to research and innovation action and innovation action. So all other type of actions are not affected unless specifically stated for some reason in the call documents. Also, most of the restrictions are on entities established in China. If that is the case, you do not have to explicitly declare it, because when you will be adding your applicant to the proposal, you will have to mention where this applicant is established. That's one of the fields. And if you mention that this applicant is established in China, you will see a warning that no, for these call for proposals, you will not be able to have a partner established in China. For control ownership and control declarations, they are very specific forms that are only needed in very specific calls, innovation actions on strategic sectors, where we have the control restriction, Article 22.5. And yes, all partners will have to declare, they have to fill in the form saying that, basically explaining what is their ownership and control structure, who ultimately owns the company, and that this is not controlled by China. All partners, all non-public partners, because if you are a public national body, we will assume that you are owned by the country, because that's how it works with public bodies. So that's for private entities which might have a complex ownership structure, to be able to identify who is actually owning you and whether the final owner or the major owner and controller of your company is based in China or not.
Thank you, Beatrice. So we continue with the next question. New stage 1 proposal template has no tags, but says they must be left in place. Will a new template be published fixing this also for topics open?
So this is probably a mistake on our side if we have left it there. We will fix it. We will not replace the template for already open topic, because this will not have an impact on your proposal. So just ignore it, ignore that line. Because if you do not see any template, any tags, you do not obviously have to do anything on it. But thank you very much for letting us know. That's an oversight on our side when we were updating the templates.
Yeah, and just to add that indeed we are not asking tags in any of the proposals any longer. Yeah, so I think this is good news for all. Yeah. So if we are overlooking some templates and you have information that tags should be there, just do not do it, because they are no longer needed. Yeah. So we continue with the next question. Can you please be more generous with the word limit provided for question and answer, so proper and full questions can be framed? I don't know what TIA is, so Maybe Beatrice.
No, I'm not sure either.
I suppose this is for the portal. I don't know if it is regarding the portal or Slido, but okay, we just take note. Yeah, we don't fully understand the question, but we take note. Yeah, so if you would like to clarify, it will also be great. Yeah. So we continue with the next question. Euro HPC, a joint undertaking that awards Horizon Europe grants, has now asked for a detailed travel Excel after proposal phase. Isn't this contradictory to these new simplifications? Beatrice.
Well, I can see why this appears contradictory. However, please take into account that specific calls might have different requirements and might ask more than what is in the general annexes for justified reasons. Also, joint undertakings can ask and normally ask for specific templates and specific information, as they have a bit of a different way of functioning compared to the main work program. So while this might seem contradictory to you, and it might well be so, I am sure that there is a reason this information is being asked. If you have questions or you would like clarification on the specific annex, please reach out to the EuroHPC colleagues and call coordinators, and as they will be able to provide you all the information and guidance you need, and you may also share with them your feedback if you believe that this is not necessary, and then you can see with them whether there is a possibility to change in the future.
Thank you. So we continue with the next question. In calls where participation by China is restricted, does this also mean that beneficiaries are not allowed to subcontract entities based in China?
Normally that is correct, but please do refer to the specific information in the call and to the extent and information on the general annexes for all the clarities and all the precision for your specific calls.
Yeah, and if you still need more information, please use the research inquiry system in the portal. These questions normally comes to us for business, to our sister units dealing with law, the lawyers. So we also try to reply to all the questions received through the research inquiry system in the portal. So we continue with the next question. I don't know why this is not moving. So we go to the next question, which is in calls where participation... No, this we already did. Yeah. Regarding time to grant reduction, would not 2 months between step 1 and step 2 be too short for proposal preparation? Miguel?
Yeah, I understand the question. As I said, this will be implemented only for applicable calls. This normally will happen when this reduction is considered not to impact for the proposal preparation. So this will be in very specific cases, and in principle, it shouldn't have a big impact in the calls designed for this.
Yes, and maybe to add here that this is a try from our side to reduce the overall time to grant in 2 stages calls. We are just going to analyze what is the situation for the calls in which this applies. As Miguel mentioned, it does not apply to all calls published, so only to a few of them. So it's just a try from our side. This doesn't mean that we will take this measure later on for all 2 stages calls. We will just analyze the situation later on. Yeah. So next question is, could you please I'm missing now. Next question, this we already reply. Next question is, what is now expected of impact section in terms of assessment after the simplification? Does it still count for 1/3 of the overall grade? Beatrice.
Okay, so let's say the relative value, the relative importance of the impact criterion is not changed. How much it counts, it also depends on exactly the type of action, because the relative importance of the criteria is different, and also the exact scoring of the criterion might be different. Normally, we have a pass mark at 3 with a 3 out of 5, with an overall 10 out of 15 for being the passing grade. Obviously, depending on the call and how much interest there is in the call, just being at the passing grade is not sufficient. But anyhow, the change in the impact section in terms of description does not impact its importance in the evaluation. So that would be completely unchanged.
Thank you. So we continue with the next question. Could you please elaborate on the application and evaluation process for the new pilot RACE MSCA doctoral network call? For this, we are not the persons that could, or
I mean, I can
have you can try.
I mean,
okay.
I can give you a bit of a pointer. So what this is about, we have a call which is planned for this May, if I'm not mistaken, as part of the doctoral network, as an add-on to the doctoral network, but is a part of this RISE pilot, which is on the network of AI laboratories in Europe. That means that there will be extra budget available as part of the doctoral network to cover specifically two projects complying with some criteria on AI development and AI training. If you are interested in this call, you will have to apply under the doctoral network call, the normal MSCA call, but flagging your interest in being evaluated as part of this RISE pilot and having access to this extra budget. For our evaluation specifically will be taken into account. We redirect you to the MSCA Info Day, where they will be able to provide you all the detailed information. Also, I believe that they will provide some guidance and instructions ahead of the opening of the call, which again, it should be open in May if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Thank you, Beatrice. And yes, so the best is that you attend the Info Day specifically for the Maria Sklodowska-Curie Actions part of the work program. Yeah. So next question, if I am adding Japan to my consortium, how should I define this partner's status, beneficiary, associated partner, etc.? This may be a confusion between associated country and associated partner. These are different concepts. Yeah? Yes. So maybe Beatrice. Yeah.
So as Japan is in the process of being associated, albeit under a transitional agreement, you can add entities established in Japan to your consortium as beneficiaries. However, if the formalities of the are not finalized by the signature of the grant agreement preparation, the grant agreement, you might be asked by your project officer to move them to associated countries because they will not be eligible for funding. But as concerns the proposal, if you're applying for 2026 budget calls, so the ones in 2026-2027 work program, you can add Japan entities as beneficiaries, because if the formalities for the association are concluded before grant signature, they will indeed be eligible for funding and they will be fully a beneficiary in the project.
Yeah, associated partners are totally different, so maybe if you try to say something. Yeah.
So associated partners are partners who are part of your projects, but they will not receive funding. They still have to respect the obligations of the project. They still have to carry out the work that is defined for them in the grant agreement, but they are funded through their own sources or other grants outside of the European Union scheme. Mm-hmm. Well, associated countries are countries which are formally associated to the program and that are paying into the program to participate and that can be receive funding from the European Union.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to the next question. What is the difference between subcontracting and the purchase of services? What is the ceiling for subcontracting? I can answer the second question. We don't have ceiling for subcontracting in Horizon Europe unless there is a specific criteria or a specific information in the call conditions. But about the difference, maybe we can say something, but I believe it is better because we are not lawyers here. We are not experts in these aspects. So best is that you check the annotated model grant agreement published in the portal, where you can find all guidance there, or send a question via the research inquiry services in the portal. So maybe we go to the next question. In the updated RIA and IA proposal template, Part A3 budget table on page 12 mentions ICOP and IKAA, and are these now introduced to all RIAs and IAS proposal budgets? Maybe Beatrice.
Yes, no, they are not introduced. We are aware that there has been a mistake in the Part A's. We are working to correct it. So do disregard that information. It should be that the budget table is not changed. It's the same as before. We're not fully sure why this mistake was introduced, but we are trying to track it down and correct it.
Yeah. So the ICOP and IKAA are concepts that are applicable only to joint undertakings. So this, if you are not answering a call from joint undertakings, you should not include these cost categories in your proposal template. But we will try to solve and correct the template that is published in the portal. Yeah. So we go to the next question. Should the to-be associated countries be integrated as beneficiary in the proposal, with potential need to get them turned to associated partners in agreement if agreement is not finalized by GAP?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, that was exactly what Beatrice was mentioning, yes. You include it as beneficiaries in the proposal, and then if at the time you need to sign the grant agreement, the association is not yet finalized for this country, then you will need to modify the proposal or project and change the status from beneficiary to associated partners. This is exactly what you mentioned. Yeah. So we continue to the next question. Given that the Excel for lump sums are to be suppressed and the web form is only to be used, will there be a possibility to import from Excel to the web form?
I am not aware of these developments. I do not believe so, but we can check with the responsible colleagues. You can also send us this question via the research inquiry services, and then it can be addressed there, as I'm not sure.
No, I can add that this is a requirement from our side, but it will not come soon. Yeah, so it will take time. So it will not be there. Certainly, I don't think this year, and probably also not next year. Yeah, but we are aware that this is a needed requirement. Yeah. So we continue to the next question. The new time to grant shows only 2 months for preparation of second stages. Please do consider that this time is especially problematic for calls with September deadlines. Miguel?
Yeah, we take note. As mentioned, this reduction in times will be applicable only in specific cases, and everything will be considered. It will not be the reduction in time applied in every step at once. Probably in one cases, it will apply for the opening of the call time in the first stage, in others to the second, but indeed, this is something to keep in mind, and this will be considered for sure to have a positive impact and not to do more difficult the life of applicants.
Yes, thank you, Miguel. So we continue with the next question. In impact section, where a scale is not requested, quantification of economic impact is still expected. I mean, when no exploitation or business plan is asked. Maybe Beatrice.
First of all, I'd like to clarify that exploitation plans are normally asked as part of the proposal, and unless there is a specific mention that they are not, so they should be included. And if it's relevant to include their quantification of economic impacts, yes, you should put it there. In general, for the likely scale of your pathways to impact, no quantification of economic impacts are not expected unless they are not specifically relevant for your proposal, and that's a call that you have to make, whether this information you have it available and it is strictly needed. For example, if you have plans for commercialization, then yes, we would somehow expect to see it. If you do not have plans for commercialization, that maybe that is less relevant. So that's really on a case-by-case gate, but yes, is not, let's say, required overall. It depends on what you are working on.
Okay, thank you, Beatrice. So next one, I think is a clarification. Your question and answer word limit in the Slido is very meager and insufficient to full questions. Could you be more generous in next rounds of question and answers? We take note and we will try to be more generous in the future, but we cannot change it for this event. Thank you. And we continue with the next question. Are there any tutorials available on how to fill in the lump sum budget, either in Excel template or through the web form, I suppose?
You can normally, we have some guidance document on lump sum, what they mean, what kind of information you have to provide and how to fill in the table. There is also specific guidance on which information goes where and how to take it into account. You can find these guidance documents normally linked in the call page for all the topics requiring lump sums. We also have webinars like the one today dedicated to lump sums. I am not sure, I think we have one in the next few weeks, but I'm not quite sure when. But do have a look at the events page on the funding and tender portal, because they are listed there. We do have them quite regularly. So you can always join them and ask all the questions you need there. You can also find the recordings of those events and also these events once will be finished on our YouTube page. So you can always go there and rewatch.
Okay, thank you. So next one is following the EC proposal to suspend the association agreement with Israel due to Article 2 human rights violation, how does it impact the eligibility conditions? This is an easy proposal. No decision has been taken so far. So if there is a decision and to take measures, then you will know we will publish this in the call conditions and in the portal. But so far there is no action on this agreed. So maybe we continue with the next question. Since Japanese entities can participate in Horizon Europe calls starting from 2026, does this also apply to Horizon Europe calls under specific joint undertakings?
So Japanese entities will be associated to Pillar 2. Several of the calls from joint undertakings are under Pillar 2. So if this is the case, then yes, Japanese entities can participate, but please always check what is the Horizon Europe pillar that the call is referring to.
Okay, thank you. So we continue with the next one. If it is no longer necessary to fill out the table for impact pathways, do you need to keep it in, or does it count towards the total page number?
It's a choice. You can choose whether you want to fill it in or not. If you do not fill it in, yes, please disregard, because having 2 pages of empty table or table with template text will not be useful for us and will not be useful for you. And yes, it would count towards the total page number, because we count as the total page number the length of your PDF you are uploading or your document you are uploading, and this will be automatically cut if you exceed 45 pages. So do not keep their empty tables or tables with template text. If you do not need it, feel free to remove the section altogether.
Thank you. So next question is, what about the amount of figures that should be added to the proposal? Most proposals end at begin very narrative, but due to the template demands of the EC.
We do not have any restrictions on the amount of figures, so feel free to add any figure that is relevant for you or schematic that is relevant for you, as long as the page limit is not exceeded. That's also why we give the page limit as pages and not as a number of characters, because you have this, for example, 40 pages for actual call study and year. You're free to fill them with what is relevant. You can also include in the figure some of the information asked from in the template if you believe that they are better portrayed by a figure rather than a narrative description. That will be taken into account.
Thank you. Next question, which other direct costs must be included to calculate the 15% of personal costs?
other direct costs are not part of the personal cost. So personal cost will be one of your budget categories, is exactly the cost that you pay for your staff for personal, and that's what you consider. In case of confusion, have a look at the budget tables that we have, not the one from Maria and Nia, as we discovered that we have a mistake there, but have a look at the budget table there. You will see that there is a specific column indicating personal costs, and that's what's your reference. Other direct costs are separate cost categories, which is not taken into account in this calculation.
Thank you. So next question is, why are ERC, EIC, and MSCA actions excluded from the updates?
Because they do have specific criteria and specific templates that are different or partially different to the ones used for the rest of the work program and mainly for Pillar 2. So for ERC, EIC, and MSCA, you can have a look at their specific part of the work program or their annual work program in case of ERC and EIC, and see what the criteria are and what the templates are.
Thank you. So next question. When I am invited as a partner in the Funding and Tenders portal, I cannot see the topic template. Can this be changed so I can see the template? I think this is linked to the submission tool. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I'm not fully aware, but we can check this and we will take into account.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So next question is MSCA. Can you mention any updates on the allowances unit cost for PD and DNS, doctoral networks, and PD, don't remember. And similar for SE Co-Fund. I don't know if you can answer this.
No, for this we will redirect you kindly to the specific Marie Zlodowska-Curie info sessions.
Yeah. So, but there is indeed an update of allowances. This we know, yeah. So there is an update. So, but yeah, better we are not mastering this subject. So maybe better you check with the person that knows better. Yeah. Next question is, does the EC have a preference for figures or text in proposals? In other words, would nice looking figures impact proposal evaluation? Just one comment from my side. We in the EC do not evaluate the proposal. All evaluation is done by external experts. So maybe the question is not for us, but for the external expert, but you will have a...
So indeed, the evaluations of your proposal is always done by external experts. By the way, if you are interested in evaluating any of our proposals, we have a call for experts open and the portal is always open. You're very welcome to register your profile. We look for people with all kind of expertise from all paths in life, so have a look there. So it would be the expert actually evaluating the merit of your proposals, because while we have a lot of good qualities, we are not experts in all specific fields that we fund. In general, there is no specific preferences for either figures or text. It also depends on your proposal, your style, what the call is asking for, whatever makes more sense for you, and it respects the criteria in our templates. Feel free to use it. In general, just making cosmetic changes normally is not giving you additional points. Obviously, the text should be readable, well presented, follow a logical and cohesive structure, because you have humans on the other side who will read your proposals and need to understand it. But I would say do not waste time on changes which are purely cosmetic. They have to be functional. If you have nice looking figures in the sense that they are nice schematic that enables our experts to grasp and capture what you are saying easily and better and summarize well the points, feel free to include them. We really appreciate them. Experts often appreciate them. If it is just to say, oh, look, here we have a nice colorful graph, that would be a waste of your space. But your proposal, you know what's best for you to put there, and you know how best to explain us what you want to do. But no, prettiness is not a criterion.
Thank you. So next question, where in part B do you justify lab in infrastructure requesting cost as internally invoiced goods and services? Can you answer, Beatrice?
Not on the top of my head.
No, I think it's best that you send this question to the research inquiry system, and probably our lawyer colleagues will reply to this question. Yeah. So next one is, will the currently associated countries automatically be associated under FP10? I think no.
No, the association process is program by program. We do expect countries that are associated under Horizon Europe to be interested to be associated under FP10, but that's a discussion that has not yet happened, so let's see what the future brings us. But no, they cannot be expected to be automatically associated.
Thank you. So next question, can you confirm that the budget will need to be filled directly in the portal for lump sums and not using the Excel file? Will there not be an Excel file anymore?
That's a long-term development. So in the long term, yes, that's correct. But for now, so for the calls open now and for the reasonable future, we will still use the Excel file. The rollout of, let's say, web form lump sum tables will happen progressively over the course of this year and possibly also next year. You will see it in the call documents as well, because if we include the Excel file will be listed as a reference template. If it will be moved to web form, you will not see the Excel file listed in the reference documents. But yeah, as said, this is a, let's say, medium to long-term development. It will not impact all the calls here. I think there are very few calls under pilot at the moment.
Yeah, but whether we will keep the Excel file as a template published in the portal to help participants, this is something that probably we will still need to discuss and decide at a later stage. Yeah. So we continue.
Running over time.
Okay, so we have 5 more minutes, right? No? 2 more minutes, yeah. So let's go to the last 2 questions and then we change to the next point. Could you explain which partners need to sign the ownership control declaration? So
that would be normally private partners in specific innovation actions triggering the Article 22.5 or any other call asking Article 22.5, because this can be unrelated to China restriction. It can be applied in different cases. And then all private partners will have to sign this and provide information on their ownership and control structure.
Thank you. And then we go to the last question because we are running out of time. So last question, for some lump sum topics, it seems that changes to Part A implied that data must be added using the form with no option to upload the Excel file. Is this correct?
That's a long-term development, that the information will be provided in the form is not yet the case. Also, as mentioned by Isabel, it is one of the requirements that we have in mind, and we will try to see how to implement it, that information can be uploaded from an Excel file to the web form. But that's still to come. Most of the calls opening this year will still have the Excel table for the lump sum part.
But for some of them, for a few of them, we are testing the web forms, and for those you will not be able to upload the Excel file. This is the answer. Okay, so thank you very much. I think we can close this point. It was many questions. I hope we were able to answer at least most of them. And we continue to the next point in this info day. So we are just welcoming the new 2 speakers that will give you information about the new initiative on Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, the Choose Europe for Science in 2027. And I have with me Daniela Radu from the Research Executive Agency. Hello. And Annelies van de Wendt from the European Commission, the Director General on Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. So, yeah, welcome, and please, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation, for letting us come and give a little bit more information about the next Choose Europe for Science call under MSCA. So I'll jump right into it. Some of the information that we'll give will be a bit more a repeat, I guess, of the information from 2025, but there are some new bits in there. So it's good to just have a look and see what the differences are. And at the end, we give a handy overview, so it won't be, it'll be very clear. So what is MSCA Choose Europe for Science? It's a mono-beneficiary action where the beneficiary is recruiting and training, or the beneficiaries in this case, and I'll explain that a little bit later, is recruiting and training researchers at postdoctoral level with a vision to employment beyond the project period. So we call this a long-term career prospect. Tackling precarity in research careers is kind of a bit of a new focus in this action, but there's also, of course, the MSCA mainstays, which is spreading best practice, promoting high standards, excellent working conditions, and of course, sustainable structuring effects, and then excellent research, which isn't on the slide, but is hopefully a given. For whom? So here we already have our first change from the 2025 call, because of course we have the beneficiary, which is the institution applying for MSCA Choose Europe for Science. So it's not an individual applying, it's an institution. And that's a single legal entity established in an EU member state or a Horizon Europe associated country that's associated specifically to MSCA. And they can recruit and host researchers, but there's also other entities that can recruit and host researchers, and this is different in the 2027 call, because now we also have implementing partners. And those are also these legal entities that are established in EU member states or Horizon Europe associated countries, and they can also recruit and host researchers. So it's not only the beneficiary that can do so. And then, of course, we also have associated partners, which are not recruiting and hosting researchers, but they are doing various other things that are very important to an MSCA project: networking, training, hosting secondments, providing resources. So there's a wide variety of institutions that can participate, and there's also no limitations in terms of sector. So as long as they're performing research, they can apply. It doesn't just have to be universities, because this is a question we sometimes get. So it is a 2027 call, but the call opens in late 2026. So the call is scheduled to open on the 8th of December and to close on the 6th of April in 2027. So parallel with the MSCA co-fund 2027 call. And here there's also another change, because the maximum amount that a beneficiary can receive has gone up to 5 million euro. And the total budget is also quite a bit bigger than the 2025 call. It's more than double. It's 51.25, it should be million euros, not just euros, because that would be sad. The maximum duration of the program is 72 months, because we expect that institutions will need maybe about a year to recruit the fellows. But the fellowships themselves can either be, so this is not a span, it's one or the other, 48 or 60 months. And we'll give a bit more information about how that's divided later. And as I said, this is not an individual fellowship. There's a minimum of 3 fellows that have to be recruited per Choose Europe for Science project, which is also in line with the 2025 requirements. Eligible researchers, I mentioned this is a call for postdoctoral researchers, and that means that they actually, have their doctorate by the vacancy call deadline. So that's the deadline of the call that the institution recruiting them actually has. So it's not ours. They can't be permanently employed by the beneficiary, and they can be of any nationality, so we really don't want restrictions in that, but they do have to adhere to the MSCA mobility rule, which is that in the past 36 months, they cannot have spent more than 12 months in the host country or employed by the host institution. The award criteria, here again, the award criteria are actually the same as in the last call, but there is a difference, and we've put it in yellow at the bottom, which is that the threshold for all criteria, so excellence, impact, implementation, these 3, has to be 3. So in the previous call, it was only for excellence, but now it's all of them, and this is in line with the overall kind of changes to the MSCA. And I'll go through in a little bit more depth the criteria. Again, those of you who are familiar with the 2025 call will already know this, but for those who aren't, it might be useful to just get a bit more information. So the first criterion is about the quality of the selection and recruitment processes for the researchers. So they have to be in line with the European Charter for research. They have to be open, transparent, merit-based. There's also the quality and attractiveness of the appointment conditions, and this includes things like the working conditions can be things like leaves. They can be salary is of course a big one, and we'll explain that a little more later because there is a phase where part of this assessment is also how attractive the conditions are in the phase that's funded by the beneficiary, which is in the context of what salaries are within their country. So that's a really important one, the appointment conditions being really excellent. And then also the quality and attractiveness of the long-term career prospects. So again, I said in the beginning, that's kind of the novelty and the focus of Choose Europe for Science, is that we do focus on these long-term career prospects that an institution would be able to offer. We've had questions about this as well. Maybe we might have it later, but there's a lot of variety in what institutions can offer. This can be because of limitations at an institutional level, at a national level. They might be offering something tenure track. They might be offering an open contract. So there's no one specific way to do this, but it is really assessed within the context that institution is providing and explaining. And then finally, the quality and ambition of the research, innovation, and/or academic objectives of the recruitment program. So showing that the institutions that are recruiting are excellent in whatever field that they're trying to attract researchers in, and also if there's kind of a wider objective that they're trying to address, a challenge that the researchers with their own projects are going to be looking at, then they can also explain that and show how that is significant, how that is new, and how that will reinforce also the excellence that's already there in the institution. And this links quite well to our next evaluation criterion, which is impact. And under that, we have the contribution to addressing human resource needs. And that can be from an institutional level all the way up to European level. So that's really about explaining how do these researchers that we're recruiting fill potentially a gap or a need that they have. And that can be, like I said, it's at all different levels. So it can really be kind of, in order to be truly excellent in our department, we need a specific type of research or a specific type of technician. But it can also be at a European level. We're really looking at this specific field, whether it be climate science, whether it be AI. And we're trying to increase this European competitiveness by addressing this need. So again, wide variety, really trying to be flexible towards what different institutions might encounter. And then we have a second one, and this is kind of this structural effect that we want to have across the MSCA, because it's about strengthening HR best practices at institutional, regional, national, or international level. So we know that there's many institutions that are already doing fantastic things in their HR practices, in their recruitment practices, in the way that they support researchers. So of course you emphasize that, but you can also emphasize anything new that you're going to be able to do with this initiative. And then finally, it's 20%. The evaluation criteria are weighted, so I didn't say that, but of course, excellence is 50%, impact is 30%, and now implementation is 20% of the final scoring when it's evaluated. But don't be mistaken, implementation is still very important, of course, for any project. So it's quality, credibility, and effectiveness of the recruitment and work plan. So this might be a risk assessment. This might be, which deliverables that you have and how you're going to achieve them, KPIs, like all of these different elements that really go into how a project is implemented and how you're going to make it successful in practical terms. And then finally, the quality and capacity of the recruiting institution. And here we're looking at some best practices and some guidance that we already have, the European Charter for Researchers and the Agreement on Reforming Research Assessment. So also this last one, Agreement on Reforming Research Assessment, it's really about recognizing the variety of roles and practices that contribute to excellent research. I mentioned earlier with the human resource needs that it doesn't necessarily just have to be PIs that are being recruited with this, and this is the same for the 2025, but we also know that we need, very specialized technicians, we need data scientists. So there's all of these different roles that contribute to research that are really key for European competitiveness and for, excellent research being able to be carried out. And we're open to all of these different elements and really strengthening them through Choose Europe for Science. And then I pass over to Daniela.
Hello again. So I'll walk you through the slides related rather to the implementation of this program. As Annalise already mentioned, and also just like the current one, the 2025 that recently closed and is carrying out the evaluations. Each program will have two phases. So the first phase, it's going to be fully funded by the EU, and it's going to last either 24 months or 36 months. And the second phase is going to be fully funded by the beneficiary. This is in line, as I already mentioned, with the current 2025 call, and it's going to last 24 months. So from the application phase, the applicant, the potential beneficiary will have to choose between the duration of the first phase, 24 or 36 months. And as a difference compared to the current one, they will have the freedom to choose between the two phases, either to start with the phase fully funded by them or to start with the phase fully funded by the EU. So this is a major difference compared to the 2025 call. Okay. So compared again to the 2025 call, there is a change in terms of EU contributions that the fellows are going to receive. So per person month for the EU-funded phase of the programs, either if it's the first one or the second one, regardless the duration, the researchers are going to be paid something more in line with the current personal fellowships. So there are going to be unit costs allocated to the researchers and also unit costs allocated to the institutions applying for these programs. There is going to be a living allowance, a mobility allowance, and a family allowance where the case is. And from the point of view of the institutions, they are going to receive money for the research training and networking costs and also for the management and indirect costs. And compared to the current program, these unit costs have been significantly increased so as to cover the needs as much as possible. That means that the living allowance is going to be 6,350 euros, the mobility one 710 euros, and the family allowance, where applicable, 660 euros. The research training and networking costs 1,000, and the management and indirect costs 650 euros. There is another change, and this is also in line with the current personal fellowship programs. These amounts are going to be adjusted, the living allowance is going to be adjusted to a country coefficient correction code, and this is going to be decided, well, depending on the work program we have at the very end. We have a table, and the applicants can check. It's pretty much the same for all programs and unit costs, just like the personal fellowship ones. Now going a bit more into details on the phase fully funded by the beneficiary, just to emphasize that this has to be set by the beneficiary, and they have to ensure that the salaries they are going to offer during this fully funded phase are going to be competitive for the standards of the hosting countries. So they are going to be attractive at the national level, and this has to be demonstrated in the proposal. They must be clearly communicated in the proposal and at the recruitment call, but this is going to be checked later on during the implementation of the programs. These monthly gross remunerations communicated and inserted in the application templates will have to be the gross salaries, meaning that they will have to include all contributions and taxes to be paid by the employer and employee in the respective country. In relation, again, to the project implementation, the contracts will have to be temporary contracts, employment contracts, or equivalent direct contracts. And with some exceptions, we can accept also fixed amount fellowships where the applicants are going to be international European research organizations. These are the entities created under the union law or international organizations where they prohibit the possibility of offering these employment contracts, and where these are subject to a prior agreement or a granting authority. In terms of challenges related to the selection and recruitment process, please make sure that in your applications you will make sure to comply with the transparency requirements. So make sure that the selection and recruitment of the fellows will be unbiased. Please make sure to tackle the connection with the long-term perspective. This is very important. This is one of the main objectives of the call. And please be clear in terms of the remuneration, the attractiveness of the research programs. Well, Annelies kindly put together here some information. The differences, the main differences between the 2025 and the 2027 calls. So I will start on the left side with the beneficiary, which in the current 2025 call was only one. We didn't accept implementing partner, and in the 2027 one, we will accept implementing partner that will be able to recruit and host researchers and also claim costs. So this is a major difference between the 2025 and the 2027 call. In relation to the funding, we also offer now the possibility to choose between which phase the applicant is going to start with. Either is the EU-funded phase or the fully funded phase by them. And we also increased the unit contributions. That means that the programs are going to become even more attractive for the EU-funded phase. And we hope to see very successful applications, and also at the implementation phase, happy researchers with long-term perspectives and very well paid. And also in terms of budget, there is more than double of the budget made available for the 2025 call. So the 2027 call is going to benefit of 51.25 million euros. And this means that we can increase also the amount granted per project from 3.5 million to 5 million euros. And I think that's it from our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. It was very clear, and I believe we can go directly to the questions.
Sure.
I think there are already quite a lot. Yeah, so let's start with the first one. Is the budget for Choose Europe new additional funding or transfer from other parts of Horizon Europe, I suppose? Maria Skłodowska-Curie.
Yeah, there was no additional funding that was made available to implement the the new Choose Europe for Science call. So yes, it's kind of, we had to be a bit creative with the existing MSCA budget.
Thank you, Annelies. So let's continue with the next question. What are the main differences between GoFund and Choose Europe? They seem to align a lot in terms of goals.
Yes, they do. And one of the reasons for that is that in the 2025 call, of course, we were creating a new instrument in a very short space of time. So in order to do that, we had to use the actions available. And of course, CoFund made the most sense as a model to build off of, because it already had this co-funding element, which was proposed as being something that would be helpful and to ensure the risk sharing and ensure kind of these long-term prospects by going from EU funding to also supporting it themselves and then having this long-term prospect. So yes, there's a lot of similarities in terms of how it's built up, but I think we also have a great table that shows the differences between co-fund and Choose Europe. And I think in the 2027 call, there's even more differences just because of the way that the budget is set up. So we no longer work with an allowance like we did in the first Choose Europe for Science call, and that we do in co-fund. We now work with full, PF unit contributions. And of course, there is this added aim of these concrete long-term career prospects. We know that in a lot of MSTA programs, in all of them actually, employability and skills and these things are important, but it's not concrete that the institution has to explain how they're giving something more concrete, like what opportunities they're making available, and how they're training these individual researchers in order to be, eligible, to be prepared, and to be really competitive for these specific opportunities that they might have at the end of the program. So those are the main differences, I would say. But it is true that there will be a lot of similarities, and I think that institutions who have applied for co-fund will recognize several things. And now, of course, with implementing partners, that is something that comes back, that is available in co-fund, that is now again available in Choose Europe for Science. And maybe just also to say that, all of these changes that we've built in to the new call is based on feedback that we got on the 2025 call that we had. So it was very much a test balloon for us, and we got fantastic feedback from our program committee, from NCPs, from various parties. And so we've tried to, like Daniela said, make it more attractive for institutions and for researchers through making these changes.
Employment contract is longer, so that means that actually the fellows have the possibility to spend more time doing the research, publishing, and applying for long-term opportunities that may arise in the respective institution, but also in other institutions in the respective country. So I think gives them a bit more of let's say, comfort knowing that they have more time to prepare and also to carry out their research projects. So I think the results are going to be even more tangible than for the current postdoctoral co-fund.
Okay, thank you. I think it was very clear. We continue with the next question. Can you say something more about which institutions can be implementing partners in a CEFS? What sets them apart from a beneficiary? Yeah,
I could take
Daniela.
that one. It's more related to the implementation. So
what is CEFS?
It's Choose Europe for Science.
Okay.
Because it's so long.
It's so long, probably. Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Probably it's easier. No worries. We also had a bit of an issue, just using it in some correspondence, I would say. So any type of institution can apply for a program, Choose Europe for Science program. They can be, consortia, so they can form a consortia, let's say, and one of them becomes the beneficiary, signing the contract with the Research Executive Agency, who is the institution delegated to implement this program. And there is no difference between the implementing partners, except for the one who will sign the contract with the institution. The others will be part of, let's say, memorandum of understanding or partnership agreement that will be signed at consortia level, and they will also benefit of the funding, but it will be more like a cascade funding. They will not receive directly the EU contribution. And I don't see any major difference. It's up to the consortia to decide which one is going to be the one applying for the respective program and submit the proposal.
Okay, thank you. So we continue with the next question. Are the MSCA postdocs also welcome in public administrations or only relevant for research institutions? I don't know which.
Welcome anywhere, but they have to carry out a research project, that is part of it. It is still part of MSCA. So research excellence is still key. And that's also something that's being assessed, of course. Like we said, there's a portion which is the the research, innovation, and or academic objectives. But the research one is not or. The research is key. So we welcome applications from institutions that are, like I said, in any sector, but they must respect this fact that it is, the recruited researchers have to carry out research as a core part of what they're doing in Choose Europe for Science.
Okay, thank you. So next question, is the role of scientific project manager also eligible for funding under MSCA? Annalise? Daniela?
I think
Okay,
you can tackle this. So
Sure.
we have already received this question.
Yeah, we've received the question also, project managers specifically, like I said, data scientists as well. And this is one of the things that I said, we're trying to be very flexible into the roles that they're transitioning into. But again, during the actual Choose Europe for Science project, they have to still carry out research. So they can't just be in an administrative role during the Choose Europe for Science period. But of course, if the position that is the long-term prospect is a scientific project manager position, then we expect that the training that they're getting and that they're getting the experience that they would need in order to do that towards the end. And of course, also institutions have to be very transparent in terms of what these long-term prospects are so that the researcher who's applying to whichever successful Choose Europe for Science proposals are out there, whichever programs are set up, that they're prepared not just for the prospect during the duration of the Choose Europe for Science program, but also that they know what the long-term prospect is that they're moving towards. But we recognize that project managers, there's so much of a benefit of them actually having this deep research knowledge and being able to support different projects in that way. And yeah, like I said, we try and recognize all of the different elements that come towards making research excellent, and we know that project managers also have a role in that. So.
Okay, thank you. I think very clear. Let's continue. Can the budget covered from the beneficiary come from a combination of EU and national projects?
I think this is a bit more tricky because the EU funding should not come from a Horizon as far as the latest interpretation, but we need to check, I think, again for the 2027 call, because there might be a slight change. In principle, it can come from any funding that is not Horizon. At least for the 2025 call, we can confirm that after consulting with our legal officers. And I think this covers this question. For the 2027, I think
the wording
we need to
did change, so we'll check with our legal
check
experts
again with our legal experts.
We don't want to give wrong information.
No, but in the past we had a combination of structural funding that was combined with funding from the EU, and I think also European social funding, but that was in FP7 and Horizon 2020. So that was in the past. For this one, we need to consult still internally to confirm for the 2027 call.
Okay, so maybe you in the future have a FAQ published in the portal with this information?
We will
That
prepare.
would be a good...
We will prepare an FAQ like we did for the current 2025 one, and we will try to address these questions so that we provide clarity for the applicants, of course.
Thank you. So next question is, will MSCA co-fund postdoctoral come back in the future, or it will be permanently replaced by Choose Europe, and this year will be the last call for co-fund PF?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a question for the next framework program, which is still in full construction, I think.
Yeah.
We're still at the phase of negotiating the regulation and the budget, so I think you'll have to watch this space because we're still internally having a lot of discussions about this, and hopefully we get clarity on some of the initial things very soon, and then we can really start building it with a more secure foundation, let's just say, once we have the information that we need.
Okay, thank you. So next question, in calls where participation by China is restricted, does this also mean that beneficiaries are not allowed to subcontract entities based in China?
Program does not involve subcontracting, that's
Okay.
one thing. And secondly, eligible applicants must be member states or associated countries to Horizon Europe. But for MSCA, it's not even a question of restricting to China. They have to be member state or associated country.
Yeah. And for associated partners, I think it's all in the work program where there's something at horizon level where participation of certain institutions is not allowed. Then that's, that's horizon wide. So of course we comply with that as well in MSCA. Of course.
Clear. Next question is for Choose Europe. Previously could also hire postdocs who were working in research infrastructures and teaching, etc. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So quick reply, clear. So next question, is it more advantageous to be a single entity or to have additional implementing partners? Difficult question, no? Daniela?
From the evaluator's point of view, I don't think being a single entity or having more implementing partners would weigh so much, but I think if the applicants follow the template proposal and address very well each point, regardless if they are single entity or being part of a consortia, if they manage to convince the evaluators that their program is good, I don't think this is an element that matters so much. So they are going to assess the quality of the program as a whole and the proposal, as we will provide the template proposal, of course. And I don't think this element weighs so much in the evaluation process.
Okay, we continue with the next question. Slides say maximum 5 million euro per beneficiary per call. Only one application per organization in this call possible?
As far as I know, yes. I don't think we allow them to submit two proposals by the same beneficiary.
I think this is to be
We
checked
need to check.
In co-fund it is possible, but you have to stay under the maximum
In the normal co-fund is
in
possible.
a normal co-fund. So yeah, this is again something to just quickly check.
We will check internally with our legal team and confirm.
And we're mentally noting all this down for the FAQ.
Yes.
Clear, yeah. Thank you. So we go to the next question. The flexibility to choose when to use the funding from EU, first phase versus second, is great. Can it be differently implemented for different postdocs in the same project? Or
The recruited postdocs.
I don't know.
So if the anonymous who who asked whether this can be implemented by the postdocs recruited within the respective program, then no. So the applicant chooses at the very beginning when it submits the proposal whether it will start by the phase funded by the EU or by the phase fully funded by them. That means that during the implementation, they will not be able to switch between the two phases as the researchers may find fit. So they have to stick with what they choose when they submit the application. If this is what the person who sent this question meant.
Otherwise, maybe you can post another question clarifying exactly.
Yes,
What
exactly.
you mean, yeah. So we continue with the next one. What is the motivation of not involving the future supervisor in the recruitment process? It's for you, Daniela.
Yes, so we need to ensure that the recruitment, the selection and recruitment of the fellows is transparent and unbiased. And we believe that the involvement of a supervisor may be considered as biased and I would say pre-selection, because the selection and recruitment process involves several stages, the application phase, the interview phase, and throughout these stages we need to ensure that all fellows benefit of the same treatment and same conditions. So to to ensure this process, from our experience from implementing COFAN so many years, we have noticed that not involving the supervisors in the recruitment process is actually a guarantee that this, the applicants, the researchers who are going to apply for these positions are going to benefit of a fair treatment, transparent and unbiased selection process.
And maybe just to add to this, because there's been a bit of misunderstanding as well about the idea that supervisors are completely, excluded. Yes. But of course, what is absolutely allowed, and I think it's in the REA guide for applicants, like they make this clear, is that if an applicant is interested and wants to know about the infrastructure at that institution, wants to know a little bit more about the team, wants to know more about the research options that are available, and these kinds of things, then they can, of course, communicate, make contact with the supervisor. It's really the recruitment and selection process where the supervisor is excluded, and the supervisor can't be involved in writing the applicant's, their proposal to the call that the institution will be having. So it's not like contact is completely barred, but you have to explain that contact will not go into this recruitment and selection procedure, because we know that applicants want information about the institution that they're applying for and the team. So just to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. So we go to the next one. Are there any excellence initiatives planned for also support roles for science, such as project managers, technicians, data managers, etc.? Don't know who can answer. Yeah.
Excellence initiatives, meaning like additional
Initiatives
roles?
like this, like this one, I suppose.
But even this one, I think, and Annelies can confirm, this one also may involve recruiting technicians, highly trained technicians, and further training them to become, for long-term career prospects. So also project managers, also data managers, as long as they will have to implement research programs and they will be trained, these Choose Europe for Science programs are able to select and recruit such researchers for such positions. So
yeah, and maybe as well, it's like I said, it's open to all of these positions, but it can also, of course, be to recruit a PI, someone who goes on and becomes a leader of a lab, or who becomes a lecturer, who lecturer, researcher combination. So the main thing is this idea of, research and making sure the research excellence and all the different roles that contribute. But MSCA, if you look at something like staff exchanges, also, it's all about the research excellence and the research project, but staff can be involved beyond just PIs. So it's, this isn't the first time that we've opened calls up to different kinds of roles that are contributing to research. It's really about justifying the contribution that they have, the project itself that has to have a research orientation, and of course the contribution that they're making to the R&I ecosystem and the excellence of that institution, and then scaling up however far they want to scale up.
Okay, thank you. I think we can go to the next question. What are the consequences the fellow leaves the institution after the EU-funded phase, but before the co-funded phase is finished? Daniela. Yeah.
Well, we cannot penalize the institutions recruiting the fellows if the fellows choose to leave the program earlier than the end date of their employment contracts, or before the end of the EU-funded phase, or before the co-funded phase is finished. So we cannot penalize the institutions as long as they can also prove that they did their best to accommodate the fellows, to provide them the best conditions as set in the grant agreements that they are going to sign with the Research Executive Agency. So we cannot prevent them, of course, from leaving if they find better positions elsewhere, and if the training actually that they have received offering them long-term career prospects is materialized, then of course this is going to be complete benefit for the fellows, and this is also our main objective.
Okay, thank you. So we go to the next question. On the scientific project manager, I guess the question was about the one managing this Choose Europe for Science. This position must be funded by the institution unit cost.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
yes.
They can choose to use their institution unit cost for that. I think that's the right
Yes.
interpretation. Yeah.
Okay, so I hope this
Yes.
clarifies. You want to add anything?
No, no, no.
Okay. So we go to the next question. Is there a minimum share for the institutions' funds in comparison to EU funds? Can the institutions' part be financed by national funding?
I'm not aware of any minimum share of the institution's funds. I'm not sure I fully understand this question, actually. If they are talking about the funded phase funded by the applicant future potential beneficiary, maybe some clarification would be welcomed here. And then can the institution's part, so the part funded by the beneficiary, financed by national funding? Yes, of course.
Yeah. And maybe to comment.
Yes, please go ahead.
To come in on the first bit, of course, and an institution, because this second phase, it's all about being attractive, making sure that what you're offering is competitive, or the second phase, the beneficiary, funded phase, is all about being attractive at their local level, their national level. That's going to look different, what's attractive in different countries. So for different institutions, the amount that the amount of funding that they're putting in for that phase will look different. So we recognize that, and we don't want to, put any numbers on that or any share. But there will also maybe be institutions who, even already in the first phase, want to top up in some way, and that's also completely fine. So yeah, but I cut you off. I think you were going to say something more about the national funding.
Yes, this is different from one country to another. This is why we probably it's better not to go into details. So the beneficiaries must prove in the proposal and convince the evaluators that what they are offering during the phase, fully funded by them, is competitive at national level. So please pay attention there. We are not talking about regional or international. We are talking about national. So whatever they provide in the proposal as arguments that this is competitive and attractive to any researcher that would be employed in the respective country, then this is what the evaluators are going to assess. And we don't have a minimum share of institutions' funds. We don't impose limits. They can even provide even a better salary than we are offering during the EU-funded phase. So, of course.
Yeah. And national funding, institutions can find, I think Daniela was saying it earlier, there's many different ways that the institution can provide this co-funding. So national funding is an option, regional funding. If the institution has the funding themselves, of course, great. But we know that many actually do rely on this higher level funding.
Private resources, also private resources if they have industrial partnerships. I mean,
yeah,
of course.
So lots of flexibility there.
Okay, thank you. So we continue with the next one. I think I missed basic information. What is Choose for Science? A new name for MSCA? Thanks. So yeah, please.
Choose Europe for Science is many things at this point, but within the context of MSCA, it's not a new name for MSCA. We love Marie Skłodowska reactions as our name. We like being, named after this famous, world-changing scientist.
We are celebrating 30 years
And
of
we
Marie
are.
Curie this year, so.
Indeed. There's a great video by her
No way.
granddaughter online. I'm just going to plug that here as well. But Choose Europe for Science is a specific call within the MSCA, and it's a new one, which is why we're giving a bit more information now. And so, yeah, it's different from the other calls that we have. So the PF, the postdoctoral fellowship, doctoral networks, staff exchange, co-fund, and now Choose Europe for Science is a new one that we have available.
Okay, thank you. So we continue with the next question. Can recruited researchers work at more than one partner, i.e. the co-funded months paid by more than one institution, e.g. within a European University Alliance? This is probably a very specific question. I don't know if you can.
This is a very good question. As far as I know, from the current COFAN, they must be employed by one institution throughout the entire duration of the fellowship. Now, if they have secondments at the venue of an associated partner, then this is encouraged and welcome. But as far as I know, they must have only one employment contract. Again, this is something that we should probably check also with our legal officers to see if it's possible that throughout the implementation of their contracts, given it's a longer duration than the current COFAN, they may be switching. But again, please mind you that they must go through recruitment and selection process. So I would rather say no at this stage, because being employed by an implementing partner would mean, according to the rules, that they would have to go through another selection and recruitment process. So I would say it's rather no than yes at this stage, based on our experience with the MSA COFAN. So
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I don't think changing contracts is possible, but again, secondments are welcomed. So being employed by one institution and then going in another as a secondment for collaborations for specific projects, and yes, of course, this is encouraged always.
Yeah. But in terms of pooling resources, that also might be something to look into in terms of how those contracts are paid.
I think it's going to be difficult to monitor at the implementation phase, because they need to fill in a mobility declaration online. And once they do that, they have to, this has to be the result of organizing a call for recruitment. So I would say rather no.
Maybe this deserves another FAQ.
Yes, we will definitely.
And this is why we like doing
Yes,
these kinds
yes.
of presentations, because we also, get new things that we hadn't necessarily thought about, new situations that
Exactly.
are specific to an institution. So that helps us to also
Yes,
give
it's
better
a reality.
information.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we go to the next question. If an entity moves the office and bank account from a country to another, both inside the EU, for example, Belgium to France, do they have to ask for a new PIC?
This is something to be asked to the validation service, I think.
Well, I think this will need an amendment of the grant, right? If they are sending the beneficiaries.
They will need an amendment of the grant, but I don't see here the question related to an amendment.
So first, in my opinion, there will be the need to amend the grant. There will be the inclusion of new.
If a grant, yes, I think if a grant is involved, again, I don't see here, but if a grant is involved, yes, they will have to amend the grant. It's going to be a reassessment, I would say, but it depends on the type of grant, because if we are talking here about personal fellowships, then it's a different process than a multi-beneficiary project, than a mono-beneficiary project. So they need to contact their project officer and obtain the information necessary as which steps they have to go through if they move the headquarter and the bank account, the office and the bank account to another country. So my advice is to get in touch with the allocated project officer and funding and tender portal to have a clear answer to this question.
Indeed, yeah. So we continue with the next one. Can supervisors drop out of the project, and what are the obligations for the recruiting organization? Yeah. Daniela.
It can happen, of course, that during the implementation, I mean, we are talking about 6-7 years projects here, so anything can happen. They can have suspensions because of, I don't know, sickness or maternity leave, or anything can happen, or they can go to another institution, of course. So they can change. I mean, the recruited fellows can have different supervisors throughout the implementation of their research projects. They may even opt at some point, given the duration, they may even opt for having a supervisor from academia during the first 2 years, and then one from an industrial associated partner during the last 2-3 years of their research projects. So I think everything has to be very clear in the proposal, and this has to be clearly communicated also throughout the implementation process with the project officer and approved on a case-by-case basis. But in principle, yes, it's something that it's part of normal life.
And the obligations for the recruiting organization is to provide...
is to ensure that at any stage the fellows, the recruited researchers have the supervisory for the implementation of the project, yes.
Okay, thank you. I think it's very clear. Yeah, so we continue. Is there a minimum share for the institution's funds in comparison to EU funds?
We already
we have already replied to this question, so maybe we go to the next one. To elaborate on the previous question about maximum number of applications per beneficiary, universities offer range of subjects area, so it could be difficult to limit.
Yeah, because this is something that we did have already in the 2025 info session that we ran, that, in some cases there's actually different picks for different bodies within a same bigger institution, but in some cases it is really the university. But we also do, you can also apply with positions not all in the same field. So that is also a possibility. You don't have to have, a single challenge. You can say, we would actually like someone who is supporting, coming in our new biotech lab, and also we need someone to, we have a human resource need as well in our, environmental mapping team or something like that. So that is also a possibility. You can have multiple different positions within the same application. Then it's just a matter of making sure to balance and explain each of those in turn. So yeah, but again, we're gonna make sure to check about the beneficiary, the ability or not of a single beneficiary to apply for multiple grants. So we're gonna check that, and we'll make sure that it's available in an FAQ. But just to say that within one application, you can actually have different types of positions. But yeah, the conditions and the training, of course, you're explaining holistically.
Okay, thank you. I think we can go to the next question. Is there an update of the allowances unit costs across the MSCAs? Yeah, I think this question also came in the previous, yeah. So the answer is yes, right? Yeah.
The answer is yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And the information is in the work program.
It's all in the work program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Next question. What is critical in establishing an unbiased selection process? Please explain. Yeah.
I will probably, I think it's best to refrain from going too much into details, because we cannot provide actual support for drafting the proposals, and we would like to avoid any interpretation. So I think it's up to the beneficiary to convince the evaluators further assessing their proposals that what they are suggesting in terms of selection and recruitment process indeed meets these requirements. So we provide with the template proposals, and each criterion and sub-criterion we provide some clarifications. So also, what we advise the applicants is to consult the guide for applicants, because it comes with additional information compared to the work program, and also to check the FAQ, because we are going to provide also clarifications, but I would refrain from going into more details on the selection process. Thank you.
Thank you. So we go to the next question. The Global Gateway Early Stage Investment Mechanism is part of the Horizon Europe.
I have no idea.
So we don't know about it, no. But we are also probably not the right persons to answer this question. Yes. So or just post this question in the research inquiry system, or yes. Yeah, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah. Okay, so we go to the next question, and I think we are just going to the last questions in the list. It's a fantastic event. A suggestion for next time, perhaps a short break. Yes, we we have thought about it, but we will consider for the next time. Thank you very much. So next question. MSCA financial regulations for secondments are very difficult to implement as they do not align with the national travel rules. Any changes planned for the Choose Europe initiative?
First of all, financial regulation for secondments. I'm not sure I clearly understand what they mean for. Either they refer to the duration, which for the current personal fellowships cannot go beyond the 1/3 of the length of the employment contract. And again, this is something that remains to be seen from one case to another, because basically the fellows are recruited by one institution and they have to comply with the rules of the respective institutions in terms of traveling, accommodation, and any costs related to secondments. If these costs are also partly covered by some associated partners, then of course it depends on a case-by-case basis. I'm not sure I can provide an answer that is valid for all cases. So this again has to be discussed with the project officer. We don't have any specific change for Choose Europe for Science, and the general line is we highly encourage secondments because it enriches any research project and encourages networking and offers many prospects to the fellows, but we don't have any specific financial regulation for secondment.
I think there is a clarification of this question, which is there is a fixed amount that needs to be paid for the scientists. We can only pay what was paid. I don't know if this brings some clarifications. Otherwise,
Sure
maybe I advise to go to the research inquiry system and post a question.
Just
Probably
contact
we
the
need
project.
more details.
Yes, just contact the project officer. I'm not sure I understand what financial fixed amount that needs to be paid to the scientist. Which type of action? Because MSCA is...
Okay, so we will
varies.
need more details. Yeah, so we continue with the two last questions. Will A4 long-term allowances and A5 special needs allowance be removed?
No, there was just no space on the slide. I'm sorry. That's me. It was a very busy slide, but no, they will not be removed. They are still there in case, in case that's required for one of the fellows, they can be applied for. That's mea culpa. But no, they will not be removed. They're still there.
I didn't expect this to be spotted.
Very good eye.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then the last question, is it true that the Choose Europe for Science call 2027 means that there will be no GoFund postdoctoral programs call anymore? I think you already answered.
Yeah, we covered it. So in 2027, there's no co-fund postdoctoral program. There is the Choose Europe for Science 2027 call. But yeah, for the future, it's really still being built.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we finished here with all the questions. Thank you very much once more, Annelise and Daniela. And
Thank you.
Maybe we go to the next and last point, and probably we will need a couple of minutes here until our next speaker comes.
So, for the toilet break.
You are lucky, no? No, so the last point is about the two-factor authentication in the portal, and I have here with me Maria Sainz Perez Aradros. Yeah? I think it will be a short presentation, but this is something that it's coming. It will be mandatory for all users of the portal, so it's very interesting information that we should pass. So Maria, please, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you for having invited me to this session. As Isabel said, my name is Maria Sainz. For those who don't know me, I'm here today as part of the Funding and Tenders portal team. I'm here today to explain you the mandatory use of the two-factor authentication and the gradual rollout. We have been speaking about the two-factor authentication already for 2 years. We have produced the necessary information and trainings and guidance, and we have published everything on the Funding and Tenders portal. You will find all information under the IT how-to. Last year also we had 2 dedicated sessions, 2 webinars to the mandatory use of the two-factor authentication. So today I will give you an overview of where we are with the technical enforcement of the gradual rollout, but I will perhaps refer to all these trainings, materials and tutorials if any very technical and specific question arise. So before,
I think we need the
sorry.
yeah. Yes, it's coming back. Yeah. So you have to use this here.
This one.
Yeah.
Sorry. So as I was saying, today I will tell you why do we need this two-factor authentication for accessing the portal, who will be the users involved with this enforcement, and how we are going to do it. The funding and tenders portal, with its more than 2 million registered users, is the most visited page in the Europa domain. The funding and tenders portal has, without no doubt, a purpose of publishing call for proposals. But the functionalities of the funding and tenders portal go well beyond these publication purposes, and it's also a very transactional tool. We upload on the portal information and data which contains personal data and commercial data that could be of interest for intruders and cyber criminals. This information contained in your proposals, grants, contracts, and profiles is considered by the Commission as sensitive, non-classified. It is not secret, but it's sensitive. In addition, many of our contracts and actions are collaborative, so users are able to share information with other users. For these 2 reasons, simple password protection plus the username is not secure enough, and according to the Commission standards, we must enforce the two-factor authentication method as a method for accessing the funding and tenders portal. For whom? Any user of the portal who has access to the information as I just explained will be obliged to use this two-factor authentication. It will be namely for leaders and account administrators, legal and financial signatories, coordinators, tax managers, and experts. This list is perhaps not 100% complete, but it already gives you a flavor of the users who will be involved in the two-factor authentication mandatory use. We are doing it gradually because with these 2 million users, we cannot do it on one go. It will be mandatory in the first quarter of 2026. It will be doing by batches, and it will concern users. Concerned users will be personally and individually notified in due time for them to be prepared to use the two-factor authentication. When it comes to the details, what does two factors mean? Two factors is something that you know. In our case, in the case of the portal, is your password, and something that you own, something that you have, concretely a device. We have nowadays 4 means for you to activate the two-factor authentication, which are a mobile device, could be a tablet or a smartphone, and using the EU login app. You can also use the national eID if you have it. You can also use a special USB security key or trusted platform. And there is also the possibility of using a passkey on either your mobile or your computer. We have tutorials, videos to explain you these 4 methods in detail. I'm not going to show you now the details on how to technically install these 4 methods on your devices. However, I invite you to watch the videos if you have any questions, and we will go very quickly to the 4 of them. So the first and the most common one for the moment is the EU login app. You can install the app on your device. Could be a smartphone or the tablet. You can install the EU login app and use it as a second factor of authentication. The second method is using your national eID. This could be a very useful method for all of you who don't want to use a smartphone. If you already have this installed for your activities with the administration of your country, that could be a very second option for you to access the funding and tenders portal. I listed here the countries in the European Union who has this activated with the portal. It's 21 member states and Liechtenstein. The third option is having a special USB security key. It's a special USB that you can buy or have and install on your computer. With this device, you will be able to access the portal. It is very useful because you could use it across multiple computers. It's another very good option for those of you not wanting to use the smartphone, and it needs to be both for each user. As a method of authentication, you can also use what we call a trusted platform module. It is very easily a chip that nowadays is in most of the modern computers. It helps to keep the access to the computer secure. I'm pretty sure you do it every morning when you open your computer. You have to either enter a PIN, use recognition of your face, or use a fingerprint. This method that you use to open your computer can also be used for accessing the portal with a two-factor authentication. It is very useful because the same mode you use for accessing your computer can be used for the portal, and you don't need to have a separate device. It works in the different operating systems in Windows, Apple, and Linux. And as I said, in the dedicated material, you will find how to install it correctly on your computer. The fourth possibility is register a passkey on your device. It's a very robust security method and uses cryptographic keys. It's very easy to set up, and once it's set up, it's very easy to use. You can install it either on your mobile device or your computer, and you can do it through your mobile device or your computer. So these are, in a nutshell, the four different methods for activating the two-factor on your computers, on your devices. As I said, we started the gradual rollout in December 2025 with a pilot. We involved at the time 1,000 leaders and account administrators and also 50 evaluation experts. Up to the moment, this first exercise has been very successful. We haven't received a lot of problems, and we have a very positive feedback. In January 2026, we are launching the second phase of the gradual rollout. We are involving this time 1,300 experts. And for all these experts who have already received the notifications, the access to the portal will be mandatory through 2FA as of the 27th of January. This is to say in 1 week time. We are aiming at making the access to the portal compulsory for all users by the end of the first quarter of 2026. So this is a call for action for you. If you are one of the users that manages information that is categorized as sensitive, non-classified, you will be having to activate the 2FA for using the portal from now to the end of the first quarter of 2026. What happens after the enforcement of the 2FA? If you receive a notification telling you that at a certain moment you will have to use 2FA to access the portal, what will happen? If you have already activated it on your login, on your account, and you have done it through the portal, you already have the 3 security questions enabling you to access the portal. So no action for you is needed. The only thing is that if you disable the 2FA, your access to the portal will be blocked. In other words, you will be able to access the portal only using 2FA up of this moment. For those users having activated the 2FA via other applications or directly via the EU login, they will be prompted to introduce 3 security questions. They will have to tell us which are the 3 security questions which are an enhancement of security of the funding and tenders portal. If you have not activated the 2FA by the time in which it will be compulsory for you, your access to the funding and tenders portal functions will be blocked, and you will have to activate it to regain access to the portal. So here are some pieces of important advice. We always recommend users to register more than 1 second factor, so that if you miss or lose one of them, you can have an alternative. We also ask you to store the 3 security questions and answers in a secure place for obvious reasons. If 1 second factor gets lost, remove it immediately from the portal, from the EU login account. If all your second factor gets lost, you must press the panic button, please. And you can register new second factors by replying the 3 security questions. If all your second factors and the replies to the 3 security questions are lost, please press the panic button and contact immediately the service desk for us to identify your identity and make you regain access to our portal. Last but not least, I added here all the links to all the support videos and tutorials we have already produced. You will find also the recordings to the webinars relating the dedicated sessions to the use of the 2-factor authentication for the portal. You will find also the most frequent answers and the link direct to the help desk if you have any issues. Also, as a piece of information, we have created a dedicated help desk for the questions relating to the activation of the 2-factor authentication. So now I'm happy to take your questions if you have.
Thank you, Maria. I think we don't have questions. Yes, we do, yeah. So you will have, I wasn't seeing in the mobile. So you have plenty of questions, Maria. So let's go through then. First one, has the situation of grants officers been considered if more than 1 person needs access, or if a single account is being used by more than 1 person?
We have, thank you for the question. We have received this question in many different occasions. As you know, as per the terms and conditions of the funding and tenders portal, 1 single account could never be used for more than 1 person. And we always refer to the different options of delegation of roles that are already available on our systems for you to better give access to different persons to the same for the grant offices.
Yeah, I think it's clear it's not a practice that is recommended. It's not even allowed by the terms and conditions of the portal. So we just recommend you to stop using this practice, as we have mentioned many times in our webinars. Yeah.
And to perhaps better explore the options of delegating and subdelegating the roles.
Yeah. Thank you. So we go to the next one. Is it possible to have the Authenticator app on 2 separated devices?
I think you are, when you mention the Authenticator app, I guess you are speaking about the EU login app, our app, because just as a kind of reminder, the one-time authenticator is not one of our methods of authentication. So you can have the EU login app in your telephone. You can have it twice if your telephone has what we call a dual application system. Some telephones like Android have this way of having the app installed twice on your device.
Okay, thank you, Maria. So we go to the next question, maybe off topic. The LIAR is involved in many communications but cannot access company proposals info. Why not granting LIAR a read-only permission for anything?
We have also received these kind of questions we were examining at the moment, but as the proposals have commercial information and personal data information, we are still considering how to do it if ever this could be done. But if it's not done, it's because of personal data and commercial data.
Okay, thank you. So next question, what options are there for two-factor authentication without using a smartphone app? I think you already explained, but...
I already explained, but I can tell you which is my favorite one, if I can, is using the trusted platform method. If you have a computer that I guess you might have if you use the portal, is really the simplest way of accessing the portal with the two-factor. Because you use this pin or the fingers or the face recognition every day, and this method can also be used for accessing the portal.
Thank you. So next question, I think is technical. I don't know if you will be able to answer, but let's try. Registering a passkey. Can the EU just use TOTP as all others, e.g. with the privacy Aldea authenticator?
TOTP is this one-time authenticator, and the Commission cannot use it. It was analyzed but discarded because it's not secure for us. It's not secure enough for the Commission. In the pipeline, there is a discussion on perhaps creating a TOTP for the Commission, but it's not yet even. We don't have a timeline for that. But the use of TOTP is discarded by the security measures of the Commission.
Thank you. So next question, when you have a single phone, you cannot access both your personal account and your professional account. Could you suggest a solution? Yeah.
Yes. First, I would try to see if you can install the app twice, if you have what we call the dual application system. If you cannot do that, I would advise to use the smartphone with the EU login app as one method, and other method install a passkey. Like this, you can use the mobile with a passkey and the EU login app. That would be a solution. Other solution is installing two passkeys on your mobile app without the EU login app.
Thank you. So next question, what is an EID? Yeah.
It's an electronic identity card. It's in some member states they have e-administration, and they have EIDs with have identity cards with an electronic device with a chip, and they can use it to access the services of the administration. So the European Commission has contacted all these countries, and we can use also this method to access the portal.
Thank you. So next question, from what date will be the two-factor authentication be mandatory for coordinator contact? I think you already mentioned, but maybe...
I mentioned that we are targeting the end of the first quarter 2026. As we are doing pilots for batches, I don't know exactly when it will be for a coordinator. Okay.
Yeah. So next question, after losing my phone, I had to contact support. Is this intended, or should we go for a three-factor redundant approach? Can we register non-phone devices? I think you also explained.
I'm not sure I understand the first question, but you can register non-phone devices. You can register a tablet as a second factor of authentication. You can buy a USB security key. You can also use the trusted platform on your computer, and you can put a passkey on your computer, plus the EID. So I think I gave you already 4 methods without the smartphone.
Thank you. Next question, where is the panic button?
The panic button is under, if I'm not mistaken, under security settings on your EU login account. But it's explained in the IT how-to. I don't remember by heart exactly how to access, but it's under the security settings of your login.
Next question, Grants Office. Your previous answer was that you were developing the possibility to add remove one contact person to all projects at once. Is it now available?
We are considering how to visualize all the roles of a person in all projects at once. Yes, we have this in the pipeline.
Thank you. Next question, when you are an expert and you are also part of an institution, you need two accounts. On a single phone, you cannot access two accounts.
I think we already replied to this question. You can either have with your phone what we call the dual system application. If your phone doesn't allow you to do so, you can upload the EU login app and install a passkey, or alternatively having two passkeys.
Thank you. So again, Grants Office, please first implement the possibility to add remove a contact person to all projects at once before making two-factor authentication mandatory. We just take note. We don't think it will be possible, but we take notes. Yeah. Next question, if your national eID needs authentication via smartphone, it seems there is no advantage with regards to using the EU login app. And in terms of security?
Indeed, if you want to avoid using the smartphone and your national administration asks you to have a smartphone, it's not the best solution for you. We don't manage nor monitor how the national administrations have their second factor of authentication. If I would, in this case for you, I would suggest to go for one of the other options.
Thank you. So next one, how long before enforcing 2FA will the specific users be notified?
Between 10 and 15 days. This is what we are doing.
Thank you. To press the panic button, you need to connect to your account, but how can you do it if you lost all your second factors?
I frankly don't know. But this is explained in the. I don't remember by heart. I mean, this is something that's explained in the IT how-to. I will come back to you if you don't find it explicitly mentioned in the IT how-to.
But it's perfectly possible to do it.
It's possible to.
The thing is that we don't know ourselves. But you will find the information in the IT how-to. Yeah. Next one, what are the technical requirements for using passkey on the key itself, but also operating system and web browser?
I know that the technical requirements for using a passkey are explained in the IT how-to. They are also different depending on the different operating system. So please, I would ask you to refer to this part of the IT how-to.
Thank you. Next one, I am trying to add a trusted platform. It asks for a device name in a text box that does not allow me to write anything, and therefore it does not work. So maybe you contact the help desk, because probably this is a technical issue. Yeah. So we go to the next one. Is the purchase of keys and password subscriptions an eligible cost? And the answer is no. Right?
I'm not sure. I think this.
Okay.
No, this is a question that we pass to the lawyers. Okay.
So, but we don't have the answer yet. So we will, as soon as we have an answer, we will publish it in the portal as an FAQ and part of the documentation of the two factors. Yeah. And we have the last question. We are alerting about the situation of Grants Office for years. So answer that no development possible before 2FA, difficult to hear. Yeah, but it's also, we have been also very clear since the start of the portal that it's not a good practice to use the same account for various persons. But we take note of the problem and we are aware and we will do as much as we can do to solve it. Yeah.
Yes. well, we cannot produce a solution that is against the compliance of the terms and conditions. So we are doing our best to be attentive to your needs, but also we have to really comply with the terms of use of the portal.
Yes, but we take note on this. So I think we have gone through all the list of questions. We don't have more questions. Thank you very much, Maria, and thank you all for watching this event. We hope it was useful for you. If you need additional information, please use the research inquiry system in the portal, and we will try to answer all the questions that come to us. So thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye-bye.